Hello and welcome aboard the Battleship Pretension from Cinephile Video in Los Angeles, California. I'm Tyler Smith.
And I'm David Bax.
And thank you for watching. David, how you doing?
I'm getting angry. And Tyler, you would love me when I'm angry.
Now David, calm down. I don't want to have to hit you with a giant-ass hammer, but I will if I have to.
Today, obviously, we'll be reviewing Joss Whedon's The Avengers.
And we'll be joined by actor-comedian Paul Rust in a moment, but first, The Avengers.
You here with a mission, sir? Trying to get me back in the world?
Trying to save it.
Doctor, I need you to come in.
What if I say no?
I'll persuade you.
What are you asking me to do?
It's called the Avengers Initiative.
Directed by Joss Whedon, The Avengers brings together Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, all of whom have had their own cinematic adventures in the last 4 years. They assemble to battle the evil Loki and his alien army who are attempting to take over the world.
We're not a team. We're a time bomb.
As our heroes band together, they must set aside personal pride and ego in order to accomplish their goal. The film is already breaking box office records and is considered by many to be one of the best superhero films of all time.
So let's get into it, shall we?
Indeed.
You know I'm a contrarian. I want to break with the consensus on this. I wish I could. I wish I could come on here. I'm sure we get lots of hits and angry comments if I came on here and tore the Avengers a new asshole, but I just liked it so much.
Just this idea, it's just like, oh, it's playing to the, you know, it seems like it could be pandering.
Right,
and,
it's being rubber stamped by the...
Exactly. But I bought pretty much everything the film was selling. It has been a long time since I have had that much fun watching a movie.
It's so much fun.
It's not a perfect film, but I found myself just smiling all the way through it.
But it's fun. It's not a perfect film. We'll get to that in a second. But I go in feeling a certain way about Joss Whedon. I'm a big fan of his work. But it's not just the fun dialogue and stuff like that. He has turned out to be a really talented director of action and heavily CG action. He does in a very good way, and I mean this is a film that is definitely worth seeing while it's in the theater.
With Joss Whedon, you expect there to be a nice wit to the way the characters interact, and there is, but there's also wit to how he constructs the action sequences. But he understands that there needs to be like an ebb and flow. Like we need to have a moment where it's just like, okay, we're now following Iron Man. He is not in any particular danger, but we are still following him. But now we'll go to Hawkeye, who is in danger, and now we'll go to Black Widow, who's also in danger, to Hulk, who's gonna be fine. Like it's just...
I want to talk about the stuff I don't like.
Okay.
Which is essentially the first act. The first act is very episodic, the getting the whole gang together thing. It's just sort of, let's get this guy, and then let's get this guy.
I feel like anybody watching this review is just gonna say like they're just a couple of 9-year-old boys. But the first act seemed a little slow, partially because I'm just like, just get to it. I just want to see them all in the same room. While it does drag, I understand the necessity for it as a storytelling device. And so
the other thing I want to talk about is that I think this is the best cinematic representation of the Hulk we've ever had. But I also, or that I've ever seen, I didn't see the one, the Edward Norton one, but based on what I've read, people are generally in agreement that this is the best Hulk. I know you like that dumb Ang Lee movie, but I still think the Hulk is inherently unsatisfying to me. The first time that Bruce Banner hulks out in the movie, it is insane and dangerous and horrifying. Yeah, and that kind of makes more sense. When suddenly the Hulk is able to have some control over the way he acts as the Hulk, I think it loses its metaphorical power.
I'm sorry, did you say that you wanted the Hulk to have power as a metaphor? Maybe you should watch that Ang Lee film again, jerk.
Well, I also want to not be bored.
It was fun to watch Hulk smashing things, and I enjoyed that.
I enjoyed it too. We both really enjoyed the Avengers. And
it is currently my favorite movie of the year.
And it is probably my favorite superhero movie of all time, but that's a different discussion because there's some stiff competition there, which we will talk about in our next segment, where we will be joined by comedian actor Paul Rust to talk about some other superhero movies. We just reviewed Joss Whedon's The Avengers, here to talk about some other superhero movies. An actor and comedian whom you know from films such as I Love You Beth Cooper and Inglourious Basterds, Paul Rust. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Did you see The Avengers?
I did. I did my homework.
Where does The Avengers fit for you in terms of superhero movies?
Well, despite how this all looks, it might surprise you that I'm not much into comic books. And I wasn't when I was growing up, and I still am not. So when I go to these movies, I guess I come in as a person who is more on the side of, oh, I need the movie to kind of invite me in and stuff.
I'm also not a comic book guy, but I think there are some very notable exceptions, especially in the past 10 or so years. There's been this big uptick, and I like Sam Raimi's first 2 Spider-Man movies. I like Bryan Singer's X-Men movies.
Yeah.
I like Christopher Nolan's Batman movies.
Right.
Those are kind of the usual suspects.
Did you mean to do that?
No, I didn't.
Just a happy accident, I guess.
You certainly are an apt pupil when it comes to Bryan Singer's movies. For me, I think superhero movies are supposed to be fun, right? So like when I go to a movie and it's a little like dour and self-important, I'm just like, ugh, you don't get that this is mainly about people wearing capes and like running around. Like it should have a sense of fun. I even like the Richard Donner, like Richard Lester, like Superman movies from the 70s. Most people think this is like the nadir of superhero movies, but like Superman 3 might be like my favorite superhero movie.
Is that the one where he picks up a lake, or is that in Superman 4?
Well, he freezes the lake first.
Right.
Be ridiculous. You can't pick up water, David.
It'll fall right through your hands.
Richard Donner's Superman is it's amazing.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm talking. It's like some sort of combination where they're taking it seriously enough that you believe it, but it's fun enough that you're not like, guys, come on.
I'm sure that level of fun will be maintained when Zack Snyder takes a crack at it.
It's Superman.
Superman movie, yeah. There'll be like robot insects and like sexy preteen girls like fighting Superman.
Who even needs Superman if you got all that, really?
And I like those, I did like that Bryan Singer Superman movie.
Are any of you looking forward to Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man, the Spider-Man reboot?
Yeah, he looks very mopey, right?
I guess it goes back to the thing you're talking about, Paul, about like they should be fun. So when this trailer starts with, I'm Spider-Man, I have this, and I have these powers, and it's like, but I've always just wondered who my parents were. Like that's who.
Yeah, I'd like it if like every time he like shoots out his web, it's just like an apathetic like teenager, like just like an emo like shoot.
Now, one of my favorite superhero movies, and my friends always gave me crap for this, but I love it, is The Shadow with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah,
and I feel like that has a lot of what you're talking about. It's got like a sense of fun.
Yeah.
It's Alec Baldwin being like, I always thought that his Lamont Cranston, yeah, I know the name. I always thought that his Lamont Cranston was a nice precursor to like Tony Stark in Iron Man, kind of the wisecracking guy who he takes things seriously, but he always has a nice little
wisecrack.
Yeah.
Saw The Shadow in the theater, I think opening day, because I was a huge Shadow head, a big Lamont head. But I remember going and being mildly disappointed.
I wasn't aware of the old radio serial when I was like 12, but my dad, brother, and I went to see the midnight. They had a midnight show of it opening day, and so it's just like, let's do that. And it's like
all these old-timey like radio fans in there with their old like radios.
Well, you can find us at battleshippretension.com as always. Paul, where can people find you on the internet?
I have a Twitter handle. It's @PaulRust, and my website, paulrust.com. They can check stuff out there, too.
Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thanks for having me. I had a super time.
Thanks to Cinephile Video for having us, and thank you at home for watching.
We'll get you next time.
Bye.
Bye.